by Pastor Mario Morato of Waves of Faith. Please stand.
And please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and the pledge to the state of Texas.
Good morning. Let's go ahead and let's bow our heads and let's go to a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you today. We come to you as we pray over our city of Fort Worth. We thank you so much for another day that you have blessed us with, another day that you have given us, Father, with your new mercies and full of grace, Father. Father, we ask that you be with every single one of us here today. You have full authority over our city, over our lives, and over this meeting. I ask that you continue to be with our city leaders who make a difference and an impact in so many lives. I ask that you give us the wisdom to make those hard decisions. Give us the courage. Give us the courage to do the right things, Father. I thank you for every single person that is in this room today that makes a difference in many different ways. We ask that you just continue to move, that your presence be made known in all things that we do. I ask blessings over every single leader that is here, over every single city leader that is here, over their families, over their marriages, over their kids, over their finances, Father, over their homes, Father. May it be centered, focused in you, Father. May your presence be in their homes, Father. And anybody that's in this room, Father, that leads your city, Father, does not know you, Father. They have a surrendered heart to you above all things, Father. Father, give us a heart that is a servant heart like yours, Father, a heart that has compassion, a heart that is unconditional, a heart that loves the poor, Father, a heart that loves the hungry. Father, we ask that you just continue to be with us, Father. We ask that your presence be made known in the city of Fort Worth, Father, that we are fully surrendered to you, Father God. God, I thank you for those that put their lives on the line for our city to be a city of peace, Father. Father, I thank you again for all that you do and all that you continue to do here in the city of Fort Worth, Father. We thank you for the privilege and the honor to be able to lead those around us, Father, to love them the way you have loved us, Father. We ask all these things in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, how's everybody doing? How's everybody doing?
Good.
Our mayor is delayed today. One thing that I always celebrate is we have the nation's second youngest mayor in the country. But with so many things going on, the war in Ukraine, baby formula, and other matters, it's hard to find things to celebrate, but today's celebration came to City Hall. And so we are going to change the order of the agenda this morning because lacrosse, as in Trinity Valley, lacrosse is in the house. And Councilmember Crane, that's your cue.
Who wants to hold this? Okay, there you go. All right. Hey, Mayor Pro Tem, thanks for indulging me today and getting these guys. I didn't want to keep them out of school as long as we were probably going to be here getting to their agenda item. But this, lacrosse is coming to Fort Worth already with Panther City. And now with these guys, they are the state Texas High School Lacrosse League Division or Class D state champions this year. And so I want to recognize them. So they were the runners-up for state in 2021, and then they made a plan this year to come back and attack and win, and they did it, and I'm very proud of them and have them part of the district. So with that, I want to read what's on the plaque and then give someone a chance. It says, whereas Trinity Valley School, founded in 1959 as a pre-K through 12 co-ed independent school to educate students on fine scholarship with fulfillment and preparation for a post-secondary credential, develop a wide range of interests, focus on intelligent citizenship, and foster spiritual and moral development, which promotes lasting values in academics, arts, athletics, and all aspects of a student's life. And whereas TVS's lacrosse team, after being the 2021 state runners-up and returning to the 2022 session with 16 seniors and 10 juniors, many of whom were recognized as all-state and all-district players in the Texas High School Lacrosse League, won the 2022 THSLL Class D State Championship. And whereas this achievement was a major milestone for TVS as they compete against bigger schools in higher divisions and continued to dominate into an almost perfect season before playoffs, along with setting outstanding records of 3 shutouts, over 200 goals scored, and allowing 74 goals during the regular season. And whereas the Trinity Valley School State Championship win exemplifies the value of development and fulfillment at the highest level, not only for the lacrosse program, but also as an example for the school as a whole, we recognize their achievement and congratulate Trinity Valley School and the 2022 championship team on an excellent lacrosse season and their definitive win. Now, therefore, the city of Fort Worth does hereby recognize and celebrate the achievement of the Trinity Valley School lacrosse team in the city of Fort Worth. So congratulations, guys.
All right. Congratulations.
Who would like to speak, represent the team? Come on up.
Hello, I'm Cannon. I'm a senior, just graduated. I really appreciate y'all allowing us to come in and receive this award. It's a really fun year, and we're happy we got to take the trophy back to Fort Worth.
All right, all right.
Congratulations.
Michael, I think you're the shortest person down there.
Thanks. All right. I think Jack has a volley pin for y'all. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all very much. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank y'all. Now head back to class.
Thank you, Councilmember Crane. I see plaid jackets in the chamber. One of them is being worn by a guy named Casey, a buddy of mine. Casey, pipes come on down with Judd and Frank as we have our presentation by the 2022 Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial Country Club. Good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. It's great to see you as well, and good to see all the members of the council. On behalf of the Charles Schwab Challenge tournament, we are happy to come here today and present you again with your city council passes to the tournament. Judd, if you want to begin that process. On behalf of Jim Witten, our chairman, Michael Toth, our director, Frank Cordiero, who is our general manager at the club, is here as well. We are very delighted to say that this will be our 76th tournament. We are the longest running PGA event in one location in PGA history. And honestly, a lot of that is due to the partnership that we have with you. We have a great city that supports us and works with us hand in hand. And that's made us successful these last 76 years. So thanks to all of you. In many ways, the Colonial Tournament is probably the greatest, one of the greatest worldwide advertisements for the city that we have. The tournament will be broadcast in 200 countries around the world. It'll reach 15 million viewers in the U.S. alone. There will be 42,000 visitors to Fort Worth this week. $8 million in economic revenue will be generated. But more important than that is what we will do with the money. $13 million will be spent in charities, and those charities are right here locally in Fort Worth. So we are extremely excited to have our 76th tournament. We're extremely excited to see all of you come out and join us. I would mention the field this year is exceptional. We have both Scotty Scheffler, the #1 player in the world and Masters champion from April, and Justin Thomas, who just won the PGA last weekend. So the previous 2 majors champions are both in our field, which is spectacular. So again, we are very, very excited about the tournament. We are very proud of our partnership with the city, and we cannot thank you all enough for all you do to support us, from the police who are out there on site, to everybody that comes and supports us during the week, to the city manager and Mr. Zavala coming out and volunteering. It's a wonderful partnership, and we're grateful to each and every one of you. We thank you, and we hope we see you out there.
Thank you. And finally, we have more good news, which includes a proclamation that's going to be presented by Councilmember Firestone for a winner.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. On the topic of golf, it is an exciting week, and I know we all are looking forward to getting out to the tournament, but in that vein, we wanted to recognize one of our own who was a recent PGA Tour winner, Tom Hoagie. And Tom couldn't be with us this morning. He is out practicing, I think, because he's playing this week, of course. But he did something very significant this year, and the mayor and council wanted to recognize that with the proclamation. So I thought I'd just read that from here, if that's all right. And if you all wouldn't mind bringing it back to Tom, that'd be great, and we can get a good, quick photo in just a minute. So whereas Tom Hoagie was born in Statesville, North Carolina, and grew up in Fargo, North Dakota, where he began playing golf. And whereas Tom found his way to Fort Worth and Texas Christian University, where he played on the golf team, graduating in 2011. He tied for third in the individual portion of the 2009 NCAA Golf Championship, also winning several North Dakota and Minnesota amateur titles. And whereas Tom began his professional career after graduating from TCU by winning the Mackenzie Tour PGA Tour Canada Players Cup in 2011 to gain entry into the PGA Tour's RBC Canadian Open. From there, Tom continued his professional career as a member of the Web.com Tour from 2012 to 2014, and since 2015, he has been a member of the PGA Tour. And whereas Tom continued to succeed in his professional career over the years by remaining in the top PGA Tour rankings. In 2021, he qualified for the FedEx Cup playoffs for the third time, advancing to the BMW Championship for the second consecutive season, and finishing number 54 in the FedEx Cup standings. And whereas in 2022, Tom won the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am by 2 strokes, earning his first PGA Tour victory in his 203rd career start at the age of 32 years old. This marked the first-time winner of the season on tour and the 13th in tournament history. So now, therefore, the city of Fort Worth does hereby recognize and celebrate the achievements of Tom Hoagie. Thank you. Thanks again for being here. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. We'll see you out there. Okay. Appreciate it.
Items to be continued, items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda.
There we go. I have a number of items to withdraw from the consent agenda as we have a speaker. There are 16 of them. MNC 22-0364, 22-0366, 22-0367, 22-0368, 22-0369, 22-0372, MNC 22-0376, MNC 22-0380, MNC 22-0381, MNC 22-0382, MNC 22-0383, MNC 22-0387, MNC 22-0391, MNC 22-0393, MNC 22-0375, agenda item 22.
Items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
Let's see, we have agenda item 22-2197 that will be withdrawn, and a revised version of a resolution will be brought back at a later date. And then we will continue the following zoning cases to June 14th, 2022. That's ZC 22-041 and ZC-22-081.
Consideration of the consent agenda as amended.
Motion carries.
Agenda item 22-0364.
First speaker is Thomas Turlin-Cossey.
Do y'all have your body cameras on? Body cameras on? No? The body cameras are useless. Mayor, council members, citizens, taxpayers, I wanted to go through the formality of reading this specific agenda item to adopt the attached appropriations ordinances to amend fiscal year 2022 mid-year budget adjustments by reallocating resources, authorize all associated transfers, and amend the fiscal year 2022 adopted budget in total in amount of $639,131. I also wanted to ask the council or the city manager to explain in eighth grade language what this measure means and to give us a little bit more details for the listening audience or the folks that may watch online later. Part of the point here is that it's our understanding that there are agenda items that will no longer be read and that the public will only be given the agenda item number, and that's a council decision. I'm sure it's for efficiency or reduction in time dedicated to tasks like this. I want to also remind the council that about 10% of the population of Fort Worth is visually impaired or visually challenged, and that a number of greater than that are auditory learners. And so it's pretty useful to have the agenda items read out loud. Specifically on this measure, it talks about reallocating resources, but there's not really a lot of specifics behind what that is, just basically all kinds of things. Is there any explanation in plain English? You can use the rest of my time if you like. All right.
That's the last of our speakers, council. Can I have a motion? Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Agenda item 22-0366.
Thomas Turlin-Cossey.
Mayor and council, this is a slightly different measure. The source of the funding is similar. Approve allocation of American Rescue Plan Act funding up to the amount of $3,675,000 in support of infrastructure and data protection initiatives. Adopt attached appropriation ordinance, amend the fiscal year 2022-2026 capital improvement program. It looks to me like this is a reflection of a number of changes. We set a budget, we establish a budget, and what's been happening over the last several months is we start cramming odds and ends and lots of additions. This is money from the federal program, we all know. But things like infrastructure, entirely too vague for the public to understand what's actually being paid for here. And data protection initiatives is going to sound a whole lot like some of the agenda items that are coming next. Does anyone want to comment on that one? Maybe my council member could explain what this particular measure is about. No.
Please vote.
agenda item MNC 22-0367.
Thomas Trolinkasi.
Mayor and council, taxpayers out there wondering what's going on. This one is to approve the allocation of American Rescue Plan Act funding in the amount of $3,595,000. That's only $100,000 less than the last measure, to support information security and cybersecurity initiatives. You'll note that the very last measure was infrastructure and data protection initiatives. Sounds pretty similar to this act. My point is that by not elaborating and making it clear to the public, we have no idea what you're voting on. You have no idea, outside of the traditional and original budget that was set last October, what these outlays are for and what the intention of this is. It looks like we're cutting checks to the staff for a wish list. And that's all I have to say on that particular.
Motion, council? Another discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0368.
Thomas Trolinkasi.
Madam Mayor and council, citizens, this is another electronics or Wi-Fi related measure. Ratify the original spend authority in the amount of $6,277,000 for neighborhood Wi-Fi project authorized under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, with actual spending of $4,385,000. Allocate American Rescue Plan Act Subtitle M funds in an amount of $3,361,000 for the completion of the neighborhood Wi-Fi project, and allocate American Rescue Plan Act Subtitle M funds in the amount of $3,730,000 for 4 years of operational costs necessary for the support of the neighborhood Wi-Fi system. Altogether, nearly $12 million in outlays for a Wi-Fi system. I think a Wi-Fi system is a great idea, but once again, this is just loading money that's coming from the feds without a real clear understanding as to where it's going and how it's being spent.
Move to approve, council?
I'd like to speak on this particular.
Go ahead,
item, if you
Elizabeth.
give me- You can sit down.
I know, but I can stand up too.
So I just want to be clear that we received ARPA dollars, and those gave us the opportunity to make true change in our community. They were above and beyond our normal budget, and this council, which I'm incredibly proud of how we've chose to spend it. Instead of piecemealing projects here and there around the city, we looked at what we could do to make real transformational change, generational change in this city. And you've seen that with projects like our permanent supportive housing, the Center for Transforming Lives, and you see it with the Wi-Fi, our neighborhood Wi-Fi. I see Roxanne Martinez in the background, and she is one of our Fort Worth ISD school board trustees. And so I want to thank her and her colleagues at Fort Worth ISD for working with us and being part of this project to ensure that our children have access to high-speed internet. One thing that we found during the shutdown of COVID or the coronavirus was that some of our most disenfranchised students didn't have the basic tools they needed to learn. And so I enthusiastically moved to approve this particular item, and I'm grateful for council for seeing the need that we have to make sure that all of our residents have access to the tools they need to succeed. And one of those in this day and age is high-speed internet. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Any other speakers, council? Carlos?
Second.
Go ahead. Thank you. Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0369.
Our first speaker actually is Brandon Middleton. Thank you. Brandon, come on down. Followed by Thomas Trolinkasi.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Brandon Middleton with Kimley Horn here in Fort Worth. Wanted to discuss a request with Council. I know that Councilman Flores had a few comments and questions. Working with Fort Worth Heritage on the Swift Loss residential development in the stockyards, we reached out to Total to see if they would be a good neighbor and voluntarily reduce their setback. They have a multi-site permit to where technically today they can drill a well at any location within the pad. And so they've been incredibly easy and open to work with. They have voluntarily reduced their setback to allow for the Swift Loss residential project. And there were a couple items. There was one item on the M&C language itself that I just wanted to bring up. And if council does decide to act upon it, we'd like to make this removal. Roughly on the 6th paragraph down, it says no line compressors are located or will be located within the Bungee West pad site. We don't want to restrict their operations at any point, so we'd like to just strike through that entirely. And then there were two other items that Councilman Flores requested, and I just want to address. One being additional landscaping along 23rd. Fort Worth Heritage has volunteered and would gladly pay for additional landscaping adjacent to 23rd. I will note that there is a public sewer line project, roughly a 60-inch sewer line that's going to be built. It's under design. It'll start construction in 2023. And they have planned to rip up a good portion of 23rd just because of the massive size of that project. But we're certainly open to planting additional trees, kind of meeting the spacing for form-based code, if that would help with that comment. And then also, I think there was a request to see if Total could convert their generators, and currently they're on natural gas, which makes sense for them, and it's easy operation to electric to reduce the noise. I know that Total is considering that, or they're going through it. They just don't have an answer at this point. I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Brandon. Any questions, Carlos, from you? Go ahead.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate those comments. Just in short, I know Total and Heritage have been in discussions, regarding the landscaping and the particulars of the compressor station. I'm encouraged that those discussions seem to be, continue to move forward. Here in the last day or so, we've gotten some definition on the landscaping. We still need a little bit more definition when it comes to the compressor stations in terms of the noise levels and what other provisions we can do to mitigate the noise. I know that all this is done, under state, regulations and requirements, and that's fine. One of the things that we're seeking is some definition as far as how loud, what decibel levels are there, associated with a natural gas powered, compressor station. So those could be something that once we get that definition, that it could be easily remedied in terms of providing some shrouding or some, sound mitigation barriers around, and perhaps we can move forward. The electric, compressor was just another idea, again, being very cognizant and sensitive to the proximity of the residential near this pad site. We want to make sure that we take every prudent step. So, I think that we're all, in agreement that we can go ahead and proceed, have those discussions. So with that, I'm going to continue until June 28th to give us time, to give us the opportunity to finalize those things and then button it up and move forward.
Sure, and we would certainly support that. One quick add is, I guess technically Total, we came to them making the request, and they have a permit to operate as they're operating today. So we've asked just for you to keep that in consideration.
Understood. Thank you.
Carlos, do you want to reiterate what your motion will be today?
Yes. Motion to continue until June 28th.
Thank you. And a second, counsel? I'm sorry, you're right. So we got a motion and a second, but first we have another speaker, Thomas Trolling-Cossey.
Thanks for remembering me, Mayor.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. I heard the word continuance and also the phrase strike through from the other gentleman. I just want to make a couple points on gas wells. In Arlington, they've adopted even more stringent standards than most cities. And while we all know the importance of the Burnett Shale and its impact on our economy, this is one of those areas where we want to make sure we're not doing the bare minimum. And I appreciate that the gentleman's comments indicated their eagerness in being good stewards of the land and also the safety of surrounding neighborhoods. I'm not going to read this particular measure because I think that the public's got a pretty good gist of it from the two comments that were made.
Thank you, Thomas. I've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion, council?
Who made the second, please?
Michael? Was it you? Yeah. The whole council did. Kidding. Councilmember Crane. You can vote, council. Motion to continue passes.
MNC 22-0372.
Our first speaker is Bob Willoughby.
Yeah, I forgot what this one was. Okay, what I understand is that you're asking for a lot more money to retain more lawyers outside to go against Chief Fitzgerald, which was dismissed from this, I don't know all about that case. I understand he was fired from the city, he was a police chief here, and he's fighting to get his job back because he said he was wrongfully done. I know from my experience with the city, that could be very much true. And if I don't understand this, why do you need more money to prove somebody wrong? I don't understand that, okay? And you got some rules to go by or anything? This is just not right, period. And plus, the chief that's replaced Fitzgerald does not return calls, will not take answers. I've asked him, he won't do it.
Bob, let's stick to this case with.
I'm just saying that we need a good chief back, and I think a good chief's out there fighting to get his way back here, and you're fighting to keep him out of here with our tax dollars. Please, let's get a little more clarification on this. What did Chief Fitzgerald do to be fired? Okay, and what's the rules? What does it say? If it shows that he actually broke something, then what is this? I don't understand why you need money to protect yourself here. I mean, you shouldn't have to have a whole bunch. You've got lawyers here on our money already, okay? And you're getting more. You know, it's like what y'all do is wrong with our money, period. I understand Officer Dean has 5 attorneys on his case. Who in a God's, what police officer can afford 5 attorneys? The way you use our money is wrong, and we need more clarification, like Thomas said here. We need more clarification. This, I disapprove of this, okay? 100% until you clarify why we're giving more money to lawyers to keep a good person maybe from coming back to this job. I know from experience with you, you tried to ban me from talking here, okay? I know from your experience, you don't answer questions. And our public presentation been taken away here. We can't speak tonight, so if we say anything, we got to slip it in right now, you know? Jarrett, would you like to come down and take a question tonight
Bob,
afterwards?
please just stick to the topic. Are you
Okay. I
done?
didn't want to yell. You had to yell afterwards. You
I'm
said I
not
was
yelling.
yelling. And I'm not yelling. I was trying to ask him nicely why I don't have to yell. Would he come down and take
Bob,
one question?
appreciate you. Go ahead.
Just
On
one
topic.
question.
Here we
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Carrie Hines. Carrie was a phone call, I think. Yes. She answered.
Ms. Hines?
Hi, I'm Carrie Hines in District A. I'd like to speak on MC 220372. That's former Police Chief Joel Fitzgerald versus the City of Fort Worth. Currently, we are prepared, it appears, to spend $500,000 for outside legal counsel to fight a man through the summer of 2022. So if he doesn't quit, are we prepared to ask the taxpayers of Fort Worth to pay another $500,000? Where does it end? How much is too much? Either give the man his job back or stop spending our money fighting against a man who will eventually win. We're going to have to settle at some point. So if we do not settle now, then when? And then we'll have to pay his attorney fees on top of that. We've already exhausted $190,000. We've already got another $50,000 allocated for that. Today, you're asking for an additional $250,000. That would be a total of $500,000 through the summer of 2022. When is enough enough? And when will the City of Fort Worth do the right thing?
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Gerald Banks. Didn't see Gerald. It says call, actually,
Okay,
sorry.
call.
You need a minute. I think move to Thomas and come back. Is that easier?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thomas Turlin-Cossey.
Mayor and council members, a number of the other folks have already mentioned and clarified what this particular outlay that they're voting on is for. It is in fact $250,000 in additional dollars for outside counsel. One of the things I wanted to make sure was clear, especially to my council members, that I appreciate that for the first time, my council member had the opportunity to demonstrate the importance of the particular issue that she spoke out on. And the people in the public like the fact that the council members engage their own constituents, whether they agree or disagree on the subject. So thank you. On this one, for the public's edification more than anything, for the people that watch afterwards, this is a lawsuit filed by the former police chief, Joel Fitzgerald. There's a lot of backstory to this. I won't go into all the particulars. I've heard it said that it would be negligent not to litigate and to go to trial or move towards trial instead of settling. Here's the upside to settling for the city of Fort Worth, and especially for the Fort Worth Police Officers Association. Whether Joel Fitzgerald was wrongly terminated or not, and to the degree that he's a protected class is clear, but there are a whole lot of folks, including the last mayor of Fort Worth, the last thing they want to do is give a deposition in this case. Neither does the current Fort Worth Police Officers Association president, who is soon to be the county commissioner. The reality is, if you're protecting the interests of the city and some of the nonsense that's going on, you pretty much ought to settle this case. Now, of course, I'm not an attorney, and honestly, I'm pretty eager for the case to go to at least deposition or trial, because we really do need to get to the bottom of what happened to Mr. Joel Fitzgerald.
Thank you. Now to Gerald Banks.
Mr. Banks?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, sir. You have 3 minutes?
Yeah. All right. Good morning, Gerald Banks Sr., District 5.
Go ahead, Gerald.
I'm against the $250,000 to an outside law firm. Stop giving money away that you say you don't have to fight an uphill battle. Put that money toward our youth and finding a program to allocate nonviolence and murder of each other. Programs with special interest to their needs is what we need for our youth to help maintain a constructive life of positive aspect. The war in the streets of Fort Worth needs to stop and give the young people something to really fight for, the right to live. Show them that you really care and put that money where it can be and can benefit us all and save lives. School is almost out. You might as well say, go pay an outside firm to do what an inside firm of Fort Worth couldn't, is a waste of money. So stop fighting an uphill battle and prolonging while fooling yourself of what's to come. Help save our youth that will someday sit in your seats. Say Tatiana Jefferson. I appreciate you listening.
That's the last of our speakers, council. Motion to approve. A second. No other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes.
MNC 22-0376.
Thomas Turlin-Cossey.
This one is to authorize the execution of purchase agreement with Mansfield Oil Company of Gainesville, Inc., using an interlocal agreement with the city of Plano for the fleet fuel cards and related services in an annual amount of $7 million, and authorize 5 one-year renewal options for the same amount for the property management department. There's a lot of good in this. It's practical, having fuel cards available for staff to use as needed. This is actually a $42 million contract. There would have to be something pretty catastrophically wrong not to cover the additional 4 or 5 years that are allowed in this one-year renewal. The problem is the city's gotten into a tendency of letting $5 and $8 and $10 and $12 million contracts. And the difficulty in this is that it is actually anti-free market. Competitors can come along and offer a better deal in some circumstances. Now, this particular supplier might be kind of a single source situation. But once again, with all these young council members, we're neglecting what technology could do. And I made this point on another outlay in the 12-year contract for $74 million for police equipment. If a competitor comes along with a better mousetrap, you're stuck. You rely on that supplier, even if they make their own innovations, to give the taxpayer the opportunity to save money. And so I think that one thing to consider on this contract and future ones is somewhere in the middle, somewhere where you have an out when contracts like this could be better filled by a competitor.
It's the last of our speakers, council. Motion, please. Thank you, and thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0380.
Thomas Turlin Cossey.
I'm especially excited to speak on this one, Mayor, for a number of reasons. This one is to confirm the appointment of Donacia Lawson as a commissioner of the City of Fort Worth Firefighters and Police Officers Civil Service Commission to serve for the remainder of a 3-year term expiring October 1st, 2022. So it's a short-term appointment. I'm sure that the woman is qualified and capable of filling the seat. I wanted to kind of elaborate on what this means to the public. This is a pool of employees that's different from all the other city employees, and they have the opportunity to retain their position or retain their job based on the review of this Civil Service Commission. The problem, and I don't want to sit on this commission, some of you may not know this, but my nephew is on this commission, is you have to decide whether a firefighter who bites off another man's eyebrow gets to keep his job and pay level. Or if a whole host of police officers, like those on that list, continue to keep their job or actually get to be rehired where they can commit official oppression a second time. This is probably one of the most important commissions that we can put citizens on that have both common sense and the ability to say no more often. Certainly there are circumstances where everybody has a right to work and the ability to retain their job and benefits. But this particular pool of people are making some of the toughest decisions that the council would never have the courage or the nerve to do so.
It's the last of our speakers. I'm going to turn to Mayor Pro Tem Gina Bivens.
I just want to ask Ms. Lawson to please stand. Thank you so much for making your service available. Now, I have a question for you before I talk about your experience. Are you by any means related to those Lawsons out of Stop 6? Oh, yes, ma'am. Okay, well then, I'm sure glad I'm making this motion because I'd hate to have those preachers upset with me. What I want to do is commend you, first of all, for being a Baylor grad. That's not easy to do, and you did that outstandingly. I noticed from your resume, you have experience with major corporations. One, you left, but returned. Being in the field I'm in, I know you don't ever go back. And so for them to call you back was very impressive to me, but even more impressive is your Six Sigma experience. And so again, not many people offer to take this kind of crazy punishment, but for those of us who do love service, we welcome you, and I move for approval of your appointment.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, council. Please vote.
You're in like Flint.
Motion passes. Thank you. Of course, go ahead, Gina.
Just so you know, you really don't have to stay any longer. You're free to go now. Thank you.
Ms. Lawson.
MNC 22-0381.
Our first speaker is Carrie Hines by phone, followed by Thomas Terlinkasi.
Ms. Hines? Hello, Ms. Hines?
Carrie Hines, District, yes. Carrie Hines, District 8, speaking on MC 220381. This is related to the lawsuit entitled Stephen Keys and Sherry Edwards versus the City of Fort Worth. This is a police vehicle causing an accident. This accident happened on April 27, 2019. We decided to settle over 3 years later. Why would the city drag out a lawsuit 3 years when the city was clearly wrong? We are playing Goliath to regular people I consider David and tying them up in court, trying to wear them out financially. How much is the city costing the taxpayers? This is a clear misuse of city funds. Why overinflate home values in this city in order to blow the money on legal fees? Fighting people who did nothing wrong. When, again, is enough is enough.
Thank you, Ms.
That's all I have to say on the matter.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Our next speaker is Thomas Terlinkasi.
Madam Mayor and council members, I agree with Ms. Hines on virtually everything she said. One of the things that's interesting is a lot of your claims that you're going to address a little bit later in the meeting are often for car accidents by various members of staff. It is not a surprise that the most common car accident is, of course, a police officer in the course of their duties. I do want to point out that Ms. Hines is right again, and that this kind of a claim should be as routine as an insurance agency paying the claim and moving on, because you have accidents every single month. There's obviously something different about this particular one, and one of the things I wanted to point out is that when you look at that list of 337 officers that I brought to the council's attention several times, there are some officers on that list that are on that list because they are habitual car accident officers. It is maybe just random and statistically possible that some of them have had 5 or 6 accidents in a 4-year period, but I do think it's worthwhile for your risk assessment team to look at those particular individuals and consider substantial more retraining. People say that police officers are highly trained, but they get about 24 weeks of training to do all of the things that we expect of them. And the reality is that I'm not sure that all of them get the kind of training that makes them follow a procedure or to drive safely to the degree that we need them to.
That's the last of our speakers, council. A motion? Anyone? Thank you. And a second? Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0382.
Our first speaker is Carrie Hines by phone, followed by Thomas Terlinkasi.
Ms. Hines?
Yes.
Okay.
Carrie Hines, District 8, MC 22-0382. This is related to the lawsuit entitled Artemio Garcia Morales versus Berta Wally de Garza versus the City of Fort Worth. Again, a police vehicle caused an accident. This happened August 28, 2019. We agreed to settle again almost 3 years later. Why would the city drag out a lawsuit knowing that the accident was caused by a city employee? Why are you all using the taxpayer's checkbook to strong-arm people who did nothing wrong? Why burden the person who was just minding their own business when they were caught up in an accident with a city employee? Why then burden them with fighting the city with our checkbook? This is just wrong, and again, a misuse of city funds. Please stop spending taxpayer dollars on unnecessary legal fees. We are wrong to do this, and this should stop today. And also, to Councilman Crane, Councilman Firestone, when people are speaking, the least you could do is stay seated while they're talking. And to those that talk through votes and speakers, and I won't call your names, but I think you know who you are, is unacceptable. We are watching, and election day will come someday soon, and we will remember all of this come election season. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Thomas Trilinkasi.
Madam Mayor and council members, staff members specifically, unless there's a law that says that you cannot list the amount of the settlement that you're about to vote on, it seems to me that not only should this measure be read out loud so that the auditory learners and the visually impaired could hear the amount, but it should clearly appear in print in the measure. Whether it's a $100,000 settlement or it requires a ordinance, which might be $1 million settlement, the public has a right to know not only what we're paying for outside attorneys, but how much we're spending on each settlement offer. To do less would be non-transparent and not accountable.
Last of our speakers, council. A motion from Councilmember Crane. And a second. Thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0383.
One speaker, Thomas Trilinkasi.
Mayor and council members, this particular money would be steered toward the Presbyterian Night Shelter, and everyone in Fort Worth that pays attention knows that the Presbyterian Night Shelter does a lot of good work, especially towards the homeless. All of us that make charitable efforts recognize the need to manage the challenge of homelessness in Fort Worth and across the country. This is another $125,000. It's part of a contract for $892,000. I don't think that's the sum total of the fiscal year money that goes to the Presbyterian Night Shelter. It would be nice in the summary or in the clear language read out loud to outline how much the Presbyterian Night Shelter gets just from the city of Fort Worth, since the county also kicks in a substantial amount of money. And here's why that's a concern and why the public should pay attention. Recently, some independent journalists went to a couple of the Presbyterian Night Shelter facilities. I think one's called One True North, and videotaped from the public sidewalk. The staff, more than one member of the staff, was hostile, physically inappropriate, and threatening. Part of what was revealed in that particular documentary was that those facilities look more like a jail with so many rules that they have. And I know there are challenges with managing the folks that are temporary residents, but there's a strong disconnect with that staff, which is relying on a lot of public dollars and with what's appropriate in the public right-of-way.
That's the last of our speakers, council. A motion?
Move to approve.
A second? Thank you. Any other discussion? Please vote. Elizabeth, I'm sorry, did you have something? Go ahead,
I did.
please.
I just want to say that I had the opportunity to actually visit True Worth yesterday for an event. And I've also taken a tour of that facility when I first came on council. And I really want to commend the job that the folks are doing down there. Not just True Worth, but Presbyterian Night Shelter. It is often a thankless job. They are up against a lot of odds. A lot of our social workers are not paid as generously as they should for the work that they do, and they do it out of a calling. And so I appreciate them, and I'm glad that we're investing in this particular community.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Any other comments, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0387.
Thomas Trilinkasi.
This one is, Madam Mayor and council members, to authorize the purchase of a quick response brush truck from Siddons Martin Emergency Group LLC in the amount of $313,715 using a cooperative purchasing contract 651-21 through Buy Board for the fire department through property management. I think that firefighters are heroes. I'm pretty sure this is a specialized piece of equipment and very useful in a city of nearly 1 million people. But the language in this particular measure makes it tough for the public to decipher some of the other things that this measure says. For example, through Buy Board. If it's something that's so specialized in the purchasing world, why put it in here except to make it a bunch of legalese or mumbo jumbo? A couple of the other aspects that happen regularly is a 651-21. Well, I'm not sure if that's even grammatically correct, but my point is that this very worthwhile measure is a perfect example, the epitome of how often the public looks at your agendas and isn't real clear on what's happening specifically. So I want to encourage you again, whoever that person is who composes this, do one of two things. Write it more clearly, elaborate a little bit more, clean it up, or separately provide that 8th grade level explanation as to what some of these measures are.
Last for our Speakers Council. Motion to approve. Thank you. And a second? Thank you. Please vote. Oh, go ahead, Carlos, go ahead.
Buy Board's a national purchasing cooperative developed to assist, members that participate in it. So they make sure they comply with all state and local requirements, and they offer competitively priced contracts. So just wanted to put that out there in case anyone had any questions.
Thank you, Carlos. That's a great, there you go. Carlos was the second, Jared was the first. Thank you. Please vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0391.
Thomas Trilinkasi.
Mayor Parker and council members, I want to make sure you know that I appreciate that Mr. Flores explained what Buy Board is. That's the perfect example of looking for every opportunity to engage the public and constituents and give them better information. So my point in doing this today, repeatedly 15 times, is to show you to look for opportunities to help us help you. This particular measure is authorized execution of a public right-of-way agreement granting Centric Fiber LLC a license to construct fiber optic line and operate a network under public right-of-ways for the transportation of data and information services to one or more specifically identified private customers. Well, it's the last sentence. I mean, somebody out there, including a competitor, would like to know who the private customers are. One or more. Well, how do we not know whether it's one or two or 200? That's a level of detail that doesn't even require another sentence in this particular one. And so it's not that I need a council member or the mayor to tell me, oh, Thomas, it's 3 and the names of the companies are this. We just need this kind of language to reflect as clear informational data for the public to understand what's happening here.
Can I get a motion, council? Thank you. I've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0393.
Thomas Trilinkasi.
And Madam Mayor, whether you know it or not, there are a number of people who asked me to come here and do this specifically. This is to adopt an attached ordinance increasing appropriations in Public Events Capital Fund in the amount of $1,657,500 from the available funds to accelerate the escalator removal and replacement at Will Rogers Center and amend the fiscal year 2022-2026 Public Events Capital Improvement Program. Best interpretation is there's still escalators there that you're trying to replace, and it's the word accelerate. So I don't know how much the replacement costs are or the removal costs are, but apparently we got to spend another $1,657,500 to accelerate the process, which makes one wonder, since they don't know any of the details, what are we spending altogether? Is it $5 million, $10 million, $2 million? I mean, what contractor gets paid some bonus amount at the front end to accelerate the process? Or is it the language in this measure that doesn't make sense and nothing like what I assume is actually happening here?
A motion, council?
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Thank you. And as we're voting, I might just remind the public that we have a very extensive explanation on every single MNC, including MNC 22-0393, that actually includes a projected project budget that's very detailed. If anybody would like to read it, they're welcome to do so. You may vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0375.
Thomas Turlin Cossey.
Madam Mayor and council members, this is actually a notable increase in the amount of money that council will spend on temp services. The public might not be aware that the city engages temp services on a scale like this, but it is going from $700,000 to $3.5 million, which is a five-fold increase. I'm hoping that means that there are 5 times as many part-time positions, or that the people that are being engaged in different tasks are getting 5 times the work. But it makes the public wonder, is there staffing challenges, and it makes more sense to shift to a number of job positions where people don't have fully paid, fully benefit-bound jobs available for working at the city. The point I wanted to make about this is the scale. And I appreciate the mayor pointing out that a lot of the details are available somewhere if the public wants to dig those up. I think that Ms. Carrie Hines is a good example where she's gone and dug up some of the backstory. Part of my exercise today is just give us a little bit more here than what often is a part of the language. The council's culture and intent is actually reduce this element instead of increase it.
Last of our speakers, council, a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote. Motion carries.
Agenda item 22-1957.
Thomas Turlin Cossey.
It hasn't changed up here. No, it's not. Okay. Well, the point to be made on this particular one is that I'm taking up a lot of people in this room's time today, and I recognize that. But I believe that there are people out there, both competitors of some of these bid opportunities and citizens that have a specific interest in some of these agenda items. And I wouldn't be taking up as much of your time if this agenda item and all of the agenda items were divvied up over 4 or 5 Tuesdays a month instead of crammed into only 2 meetings a month.
That's the last of our speakers, council. Motion. Thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Beck stepped out. Thank you. Motion carries.
Announcements by city council members and staff, including upcoming and recent events, recognition of citizens, and approval of ceremonial travel if needed.
Excellent. I want to turn to Councilmember Flores first.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, thanks, staff. Okay, some slides. We got a little backup from prior times we could not do it, so I'll go through this quickly. April 22nd, Fort Worth ISD Annual Awards and Change of Command Ceremony was held at Farrington Field. I and Sharon Richard Field, Director for Congressman Vesey's office, were in attendance, along with other, VIPs, Fort Worth ISD Superintendent Karen Molina, Brigadier General Anthony Woods, Louis G. Knapp Jr., Colonel, retired. Appreciate the interest and the dedication of our young students in following a military career. Next slide, please. All right, April 30th, at Fort Worth Aviation Museum, Hops and Props, their annual event. You have live music, you have the best local brews from around, food vendors, and most importantly, famous aircraft. Mayor Parker came by. We really appreciated her enjoying the time over there. It's a great family event with food vendors. You can see that they also had a little pet zoo run by the Scouts and face painting. So thanks to all who attended. Next slide, please. All right, April 28th, we dedicated an art piece called With Them, Fort Worth Public Art, engaged with the private sector. Mr. Arnie Gatchman donated the materials to do it, recycled aluminum. Mayor Parker was there, myself, local artist Rebecca Lowe, and the art piece creator himself, Mike Ross. We all gave remarks, and again, great collaboration, and thanks to Gatchman Metal and Recycling. Next slide, please. April 30th, Artes de la Rosa Cultural Center for the Arts. Rosemary Theater had their annual Dia de los Muertos celebrations, Children's Day, and it basically emphasizes the importance of children in the family unit. It's been celebrated in many countries around the world since 1925. Next slide, please. Okay, May 5th, Fort Worth Police Department held its annual Police Memorial Ceremony. We had remarks from Sergeant Privero, Mayor Parker, Chief Noakes, Sergeant Ramirez, Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, Superintendent Chadwell, Tarrant County Sheriff Wayborn. Appreciate the solemn occasion of that ceremony, and it's a good reminder again of what it is to have a life of service and dedication and sacrifice. Next slide, please. All right, get going here. May 15th. Fort delegation found itself in Washington, D.C. Our delegation was headed by our Mayor Pro Tem, Gina Bivens. We met with Congressman Kay Granger's staff, Senator Cornyn and Cruz's staff as well, had some good conversations there. Also with Congressman Williams, and also met there in the rotunda with Beth Van Dyne. Congresswoman gave of her time, and we appreciate that. Had a good conversation with a member of the Department of Transportation and President Biden's Director of Intergovernmental Affairs. Next slide, please. May 16th, an Observation Law Enforcement Week, Fort Worth Municipal Court and City Marshal's Department held a ceremony to honor and recognize our city marshals. Northside High School Junior ROTC was there present to present the colors, and Leo Signs of Latin Express, our local favorite, played a rousing rendition of our national anthem on the trumpet. So thanks to our city marshals. Next slide, please. May 19th, Fort Worth Herd was featured on Good Morning America, that morning show that we all listen to in the background as we're getting ready to go to work. So thanks to the Fort Worth Herd, they put their best hoof forward. Visit Fort Worth, Visita Fort Worth, Stockyards Heritage, and also thanks to GMA for coming out to Cowtown and eventually getting it right that we are not Dallas. Okay, so I think they got that straight. Thanks Fort Worth PD for handling the traffic. Next slide, please. Okay, where are we at? All right, May 20th, Career Day. Talked to some third graders over there at M.H. Moore Elementary School, ran into Constable Pete Munoz, Precinct 5, who was also participating, and others. Thanks to Yvonne Vasquez, Ms. Lyons, Mr. Gasca, the students, faculty, Fort Worth ISD trustee Roxanne Martinez dropped in to say hi and support us. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to trumpet what the Fort Worth Water Department does. This is a long-time project, $2.3 billion in the works. Huge pipelines from Cedar Lake and Richland Chambers Lake bring water to Tarrant County. The IPL, the integrated pipeline, is designed to bring hundreds of millions of gallons more of water to a thirsty North Texas. So that's going to be drawing water in from Lake Palestine. And that's important to our continued growth and sustainability here in our area. Thanks to the Water Department, you see Chris Harder, Mary, and Kara there in the tube, so to speak. So it just shows you the scale of what was built out there in Ennis, Texas. Okay, next slide, please. May 21st, I rode in the Texas Cowboy Hall of Fame wagon to celebrate the Professional Bull Riders Parade of Champions in the historic stockyard. So thanks to the organizers there, who made that possible. Thanks to the Fort Worth Police Department, Fire Department for participating. Special thanks to Andrea Arnold Ruby of the Texas Cowboy Hall of Fame, and Jim also from the Panther City Carriage Company for giving us the ride. Last slide. All right, Linear Labs. Councilmember Blaylock, and I last week took a visit down there to see one of our local companies that is really pushing the edge of technology and bringing back a manufacturing that has been ceded, unfortunately, over the years to foreign competitors. So Linear Labs is making that happen again with rare magnets to bring into the motor technology, and we also toured their facility and got a ride on some of the prototype electric bikes, which was a lot of fun. Very torquey, right, Alan? Yeah, so it was great fun. We didn't spill out, and very interesting in that. So thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Crane?
Yes, we got some few slides up here. We'll run through these really quickly. The one on the right is my business partner and I participating in a pickleball tournament. If you haven't played pickleball yet, it is, best I can say, tennis for old people. It's fun, it's low impact, but we came in second, never having played pickleball at Courtside Kitchen. So it was a good time supporting Idea Public Schools and a fundraiser for them. So that was a good day. Cole, I want to go back just a second. I just want to note the Colonial Kids for a Cause. Those pictures don't really go with that. But they're, this year, if you haven't heard of this organization, they're great kids around Colonial that have a lemonade stand, and they pick a charity every year. These are high school kids and below, and it's American Warrior Association, and it supports military vets, first responders, and their idea is giving them support for mind, body, and soul. And if you flip to the next one, next slide, you'll see it's going to be Saturday, May 28th. If you're out at Colonial, we had the Colonial guys here earlier, 2448 Colonial Parkway. Stop by, buy some lemonade. The mayor and I were there for their kickoff event. That is a Bearcat behind it, and we approved a third Bearcat for our Fort Worth Police Department. Just got a good picture with these guys, helping support them. Next slide. We went out, Jack and I did, to villas in Las Vegas Trail. Just want to point this out. There's still great work going on in Las Vegas Trail area. West Fort Worth Center of Hope did a breakfast for them one morning a few weeks ago, and we played cornhole. You'll see that. If you notice really clearly there's a lot of Afghani refugees that are being housed over there as they come into the United States and into Texas. And so we played with those kids and served them breakfast. Next slide. And then I've been out visiting schools in my district over the last few months. And the Fort Worth ISD, I've gone to, I think, 14 of my 16 schools. And here I was visiting Como Montessori. A lot of you know that it is closing this year, and those kids will go elsewhere. But I met with the principal, Danny McAllister, who lives out in Skyline Ranch, and the assistant principal, Pamela Carroll, there. And Leonard Middle School with Kimari Owens and Deshaun Elder, who are really superb kids, doing a great job with the principal there, Sarah Gillespie, at Leonard Middle School. Next slide. And then got over to All Saints and met with the head of school there, as well as Fort Worth Country Day with Headmaster Lombardi. And Jack funnily put the Falcon on there because he, upon graduation, won the Falcon Award, which is a big deal there at Fort Worth Country Day. So it was good tours of those schools. Next slide. And then I went over to Mary Louise Phillips last week and met with Principal Christina Naacp, which was great to see what those kids are doing there. And West Park Elementary, which is down in Skyline Ranch, with Principal Condit. So just getting out, seeing the kids, seeing what they're doing, and seeing how we can help with the ISD and our other schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Mayor Tim Bivens? Look at your selfie, Gina. That was great.
Oh, that was with the librarians. I really didn't remember. I think I held these pictures back because we had a real tight council agenda. But Manya, where are you? Okay. Was that the librarians? Okay, the Manya, when in her role as library director before she became interim ACM, had planned to host more than 4,000 librarians, and they came here to Fort Worth, Texas. And hopefully I didn't embarrass Manya too much, but we had a little fun in my remarks in the role of Mayor Pro Tem, and that was fun, but more than 4,000 came here. And so it was a great time, and I always do selfies when I have big crowds. If there's another, just roll it. Oh, this is a fantastic project. We're going to talk about it later today. But the Stop 6 Old Dairy Queen site, we're getting closer and closer to making it real. These two developers, one from Dallas, one from Fort Worth, have banded together, and we will have a project. Just so you know, I recently met with the president of Paul Quinn College, who wants to have a presence in Fort Worth. And thanks to Fort Worth ISD, we might be able to make that happen. And the lady from Dallas, her name is Maggie Parker. And of course, I do call her Maddie from time to time, but she's partnered up with Michael Bennett. So we're going to have a good project there. And that should be the last, it's not. National Prayer Day. When you heard me ask the lady, was she related to the Lawsons of Stop 6? Well, it turns out I was at one of the Lawsons church for National Prayer Day, and we were joined by the Dunbar ROTC. One pastor made the mistake of referring it to the O.D. Wyatt ROTC. And we almost forgot the reason why we were there, which was to pray. So that's where I was. And I do need to mention something to go back to one of Carlos's photographs that he used when we were in D.C. And I'm writing an editorial on this, but when we go to Washington, D.C., we really go to work. And the work that we did just recently became more real to me. Politics really is local. It really is nonpartisan. Everyone knows that we finally got money for the bridge project, the flood control project in Carlos's district. That money was delivered by the Democratic administration, but before then we got money for Stop 6. That money was delivered by the Trump administration. So it just shows what impact we can have on the local level, and I'm very proud of that. And for the first time, we were able to get to the West Wing. Not many, I don't know of any cities who have actually met in the West Wing. We were there, and that's because of the hard work of our legislative team led by, is he here? T.J. Patterson Jr. He's in the building, but just know that politics really is local, and when these people on this day go to D.C., we don't go to party. We go to get things done, and I was proud to have been there. Thanks for showing that picture.
Councilmember Firestone?
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry about that. Just real quickly, I had the opportunity to tour the Fort Worth PD Mounted Patrol facility, which is just a fantastic spot. That's located out on West Park in the district, of course. It's an amazing state-of-the-art facility for our mounted patrol officers and their horses. The facility is truly impressive, and it was interesting to learn how the horses are selected for their duty. I just wanted to thank Sergeant Danny Payne for the tour and to the Mounted Patrol Support Group that ensures these officers have what they need to do their job and to keep their horses in great physical condition. And it's just extraordinary to see the pride that group takes of the facility that we have out there and those wonderful horses. Thanks very much.
Councilmember Nettles?
Yes, thank you. So this first slide is Team WRX Grand Opening. They are a group that works to get people hired in local jobs. And so was there supporting her at the Federated Women's Club Center. Next slide. This is Career Day at Carroll Peak. I had opportunity to talk to the young people, and that slide on the bottom, 30 seconds into my conversation, they started raising their hands. And so I thought that was very interesting. That's a young lady on the right who was actually happy to see me. And it's always a great feeling to meet people who are happy to see you and glad that you're in office. So that was a great day for us. And that's the principal up top. Next slide, please. This is when I had opportunity to be principal for the day for Idea Edgecliff, one of the top schools here in Fort Worth, and definitely the top school in District 8. And so it was a great experience to walk in all the classroom and meet the kids and see how Idea Edgecliff facilitate their curriculum. It's a great day. Next slide. I had an opportunity to play bingo or call out the bingo slides at the Fort Worth Federated Women's Club. And so it was probably a house full of seniors as well as young ladies. They're just having a good time. And so it was a great event. They was also happy to see me. The next slide. This is actually the new building opening at the Federated Women's Club. And so many don't know, they got a grant from Lowe's to do renovations and to reopen that facility. And so they walked me around, had opportunity. You see Dion there on the bottom, and another young lady wanted to talk. And so it was a great opportunity to be there with a lot of the Women's Forum, District 8 and all over Fort Worth. Next slide. The roof breaking for NAACP, they have a new roof. Many don't know, it's right across the street from the library on Evans and Rosedale. They roof caved in, and they also got support from I can't remember what the nonprofit was that came in and put the roof back on there. And so we went out there and supported them, and they're opening their buildings back up. So if you need the NAACP, you can get them right there on Evans next to the old, the current Juneteenth area, but it's gonna be the new Juneteenth Museum soon. Next slide, please. This is the whole field ribbon cutting. I think Carrie would have really appreciated this slide. They opened up a soccer field right here off of District 8, off of Campus Drive, and so I was able to be there to cut the ribbon. It's just a one-field soccer, but it's an opportunity to bring kids together. And then they also had Unity in the Violence there, giving out jobs for Dickey's Arena, and a bunch of other things that was happening, free food and entertainment for kids. Next slide. The Trinity of Habitat 100 home dedication. And so I was there with Michael Crane and another young lady. She was very excited and happy that she had never owned a home, and so her and her 4 kids will be able to live in this home, and she's excited. And so it was good to be a part of Trinity Habitat, because they have done so much great work, not just in District 8, but all over the city of Fort Worth. And so it was a great day to be there. Next slide. Many know that I am working with the city, with the school districts, as Michael talked about how he visits the school districts. And I think it is very incumbent on us, as well as the mayor, talk about how we can support our education, no matter what school district you go to, if it's public, if it's charter schools. We want to make sure you get an education. And in that, we want to make sure that school somewhere we can stop the violence. And so we started an initiative out of my office where we go and do an assembly in the high schools and middle schools. And so here we was at Polytech High School talking about violent crimes and how we can stop gun violence. And so on that day, Mr. Ronnie Mitchell traveled with us, Melinda Hamilton, Toby Jackson were there, and Commander Ladd was also there. And so we had a great opportunity to speak with 2 groups of kids about gun violence. The next slide. This slide, I had the opportunity to talk with Mayor Pro Tem Gina Bivens, and she got me in contact with the right leadership for this area in Dunbar. And so Q Phillips facilitated this. That is also Mr. Lawson there, as Gina talked about earlier. Mr. Lawson is in the middle, and so we was able to speak with them, Dunbar dads, and all those that was there. And so we appreciate the opportunity to talk to them on yesterday. Next slide. The Next Level Cosmo Camp is being powered by CC DeGray and our council office. We are sponsoring children to learn how to do a technique in braiding during the summer. So if you have any kids that are ages from 10 to 17 and they need something to do, they can come and learn about entrepreneurship. We will have different speakers come in. We will feed them and get them a technique how to be self-employed. I believe those are all my slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Councilmember Beck.
Thank you. So our first slide is from the Chief of Police LGBTQ luncheon, and I really wanted to highlight this because I think it's a great example of how you can turn tragedy into something positive for the city. This group was formed by my predecessor, Joel Burns, in response to the Rainbow Lounge Raid, there we go, in 2009. And it's a quarterly lunch that's been hosted since. I mean, I really appreciate the police department continuing to engage with our LGBTQ community, so we make sure that we have an open line of communication between those two communities. Next slide. We celebrated 50 years of Mayfest. I appreciate all of my colleagues and everyone that came out. There was lots of confetti, lots of fun. It was a wildly successful weekend, and we did not have any hailstorms or bad weather, so that made it even better. Next slide. We had a Cinco de Mayo party in Rosemont, for Las Familias de Rosemont. It was a great day. We had a lot of kids that got to climb all over fire trucks, and it was really great. Next slide. Fairmont Home Tour Parade is always one of the best in the city. I would encourage you, never miss a Fairmont neighborhood parade. One of the things that I like the most about Fairmont is that when it comes to their parades, they don't take themselves too seriously, and so it's always a real good time. Next slide. Stop the Bleed Proclamation on May 19th. I had the opportunity to visit Baylor All Saints. They're doing some great work out in the community. I would encourage you to look into the program. It's a course that you can take, and it's basic first aid that you can render if you come across someone who has experienced a traumatic event, particularly from a gunshot wound. Next slide. Coming up this weekend, we have two Memorial Day events I wanted to highlight. One, May 28th. Will be Carry the Load, and it will start at TCU and end at our Police and Firefighters Memorial in Trinity Park. And the next one is on Memorial Day at LeGrand Plaza. They'll be hosting a community event as well, and I'd encourage you all to take some time this weekend to remember those that we lost in service to our country. Next slide. Movie night at Burnett Park. Please join me June 3rd for School of Rock. And then you can see this September 16th, we've got Grease. And October 7th in Conto. Let's get out there and enjoy some of those cooler temps in that park and bring folks back into downtown. Next slide. If you haven't gone out and seen our Drift pedestrian bridge across West Creek, I'd encourage you to do so. An opportune time would be June 4th when we will be out there and officially dedicating that piece of public art. Next slide. And Friday on the Green is back. It's a great opportunity to listen to some live music, enjoy some local vendors and some local food. So bring a chair, bring your family, bring your pups, and join us out at Friday on the Green. Thanks.
Before we move to the next item, Ron, we got to do committee assignments. I apologize. Announcements by city council members and staff.
And boards and commissions.
Yeah.
We have audit committee.
Presentations by the city council, changes in membership on board and commissions.
Okay, so I'm going to start with to the Mobility, Infrastructure, and Transportation Committee. We've added Council District 4, City Councilmember Alan Blaylock. To the Neighborhood Quality and Revitalization Committee, we've added District 4, City Councilmember Alan Blaylock as an alternate. And to the Legislative Affairs Committee, we've added District 9, City Councilmember Elizabeth Beck to take our vacant position. And to the Audit Committee membership will be as follows. Chair, District 7, City Councilmember Leonard Firestone. Vice Chair, District 2, City Councilmember Carlos Flores. Member, District 4, City Councilmember Alan Blaylock. And Member, District 6, City Councilmember Jared Williams.
Okay, so now resolution?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry, Ron.
No problem. 22-2194.
Making sure, yep, we can go ahead and move forward with a vote. Council? Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Agenda item 22-2195.
We have one speaker, Bob Willoughby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, the problem I have with Mr. Baylock being put on any boards is that, you know, he won't answer any questions, not one question since he's been here. I met him in the hallway and he turned his back to me, wouldn't answer one question. Much like the rest of y'all, he's new, he just got in here. At least you were here for a couple of meetings before you completely shut down. But yeah, it's just one question, and he can't answer one question, and that's y'all's job, to be on the boards or anything, to talk to the public, isn't it? To answer a question, and not one of you, and I'm asking again, or Mr. Crane, would you want to come down and answer one question?
We're going to stick here,
Just
Bob,
one
to this
question is all I
item.
have. Well, we don't have a
related to
public comment
Councilmember
anymore to
Blaylock.
ask you to come down. You took that away.
That's false, but keep
That's
going, Bob.
true.
Anything
I
on the
can't
item?
speak, I can't speak now.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
I don't have
Willoughby.
3 minutes afterwards to talk.
Any other items? Thank you. We have no other speakers on the item, Council. I'm going to go forward with a motion. Thank you. And a second? Thank you. Please vote. Motion passes.
Agenda item 22-2196.
Sorry, we do have one speaker, Bob Willoughby. Might grab Bob for me. Thank you.
Is it about Baylock again? Oh, yeah, it is, isn't it? Once again, if Mr. Baylock came to be on the first one, why should he be on another one? And like I said again, you're wrong, Mayor, saying you did not take away our rights to speak. That's not true. That's 100% not true.
And there's no other speakers, so we can move forward with a motion. Thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Agenda item 22-2197, which was withdrawn at the beginning of the agenda. Agenda item 22-2198.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Yes, thank you for serving, Carlos. We appreciate you. Motion carries.
Agenda item 22-2199. Why?
Move for approval. Oh, well. Just trying to get it.
Thank you. Once again, Mr. Baylock cannot answer questions.
This actually has nothing to do with Mr.
Oh,
Blaylock.
does it? What's this one about?
Nope.
I'm sorry. We'll retract that. This one's about Mr. Crane or Carlos?
Crane.
Resolution, Dr. Crane. Okay, now I see where, Mr. Crane, he can't answer questions either, so that's good. Thank you.
Keep up.
Got a motion and a second, Council? Moved. Thank you. Chris, I've got a motion. Can I get a second? Thank you. Please vote.
Make him stay in.
Motion carries.
Agenda item 22-2201.
We have no speakers on this item, right? Great. But do we have council presentation, correct? Stuart Campbell from staff, public hearing? No? Sorry, I was on the wrong item.
Right.
Well, that's the wrong one. I think I'm confused. Are we 2200? Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry, it's okay. But we're not there. 2200 is what we should have on the agenda, based on.
We have 2201.
But we haven't voted on.
Yeah, you did this week.
I know, but we
2201 is the next item on the agenda, but it's not pulling up on agenda. I don't know why.
That's confusing. Got it. Okay. So we can't, Let's go ahead and read this one out loud since that is confusing, if you don't mind, Ron. Thank you.
Sure. A resolution requesting that the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development grant an exception as authorized by the Community Development Block Grant regulations to the conflict of interest so that Jared Williams, an officer of the city, as a member of the city council, may be employed by Tarrant Area Food Bank, a local nonprofit that is receiving Community Development Block Grant funds while serving on the city council. And two, Tarrant Area Food Bank may continue to receive federal grant funds from the city.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. Council, go ahead.
The voting through this last item, since I can't pull it up on here, we'll do it through the last item, so that everybody can vote.
What?
What?
So we're going to vote as normal. It'll look, okay. So we're voting on 22-2201, correct? Thank you. So I can have a motion from council. Thank you. And a second, please. Thank you. Any discussion, council?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Michael.
Just about this. I had some questions from some constituents. In past, maybe a number of months ago, I asked city legal to look at a candidate who had filed to run for council, and it was determined that they could not run, and there were some things that happened as part of that. I just want to understand this resolution, and so we're transparent with everyone why that situation is different than this situation.
Yes, in that situation, the potential candidate was an owner in that company and could not be walled off from the contract with the city. In this situation, Mr. Williams would be walled off at the city from anything to do with TAFB or the funding associated with TAFB. And at TAFB, he will be walled off from city contract. And he has no decision-making ability at TAFB in relation to the city contract. So that's the difference.
Thank you, Michael. Any other questions from council? No? We can move forward with voting. Thank you. Motion carries.
Agenda item 22-2200, which is public hearing with a report of city staff by Stuart Campbell.
Morning, Mayor, council members. My name is Stuart Campbell, Annexation and Planning Department. This is the second public hearing for annexation case AX 22004. This is a city-initiated proposed annexation of a portion of West Bonds Ranch Road. Just by way of reminder, the first public hearing on this item was held May 10th here with City Council. This is the second public hearing today to receive comments on this request. And then this item will be back before you, scheduled on June 14th for your consideration, the annexation and the service plan. Briefly, this is a portion of West Bonds Ranch Road, 55.305 acres. This property is currently right-of-way. West Bond Ranch Road is already classified as a major arterial and designated as a neighborhood connector on the master thoroughfare plan. Notification of this item was published in the Star Telegram on May 13th, 2022. The annexation does not have a companion zoning case that goes with it since it's road right-of-way. Today's action is to close the public hearing after brief comments. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Stuart. Any questions from council? If not, I'll turn to Councilmember Firestone.
I'd like to move to close public hearing and approve 22-2200.
Thank you, Leonard. Going to get a second, council?
Second.
No other discussion? Then please vote.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
We're at the zoning hearing, zoning docket number ZC 22-009.
We have one speaker, Michael Moore.
Good morning, Mayor, Pro Tem, Bivens, all of our council members, citizens of Fort Worth. I'm back to, I think, approve the continuance of this case. I don't know if, I haven't heard the details, so I was waiting to have my comments really after the, after Mayor Pro Tem has made her recommendation. So am I allowed to give back the rest of my time until we hear what you're gonna do?
That would be fine.
Okay,
Yes, Vice
thank
Mayor,
you.
thank you. Go ahead.
I'll just sit over.
I'll turn to you, Gina.
The last time this case was before the body, I had asked the applicant to meet with the neighborhood association. I'm told that has not happened. Is the applicant present? Could you come to the microphone? Do you recall me giving the extension to give you time to meet with the neighborhood association?
I think that was my brother Martir who owned the property. Unfortunately, he's not at the moment, so I came in behalf of him. And I don't think he quite understand that the day that he was here in the last meeting. I think he understood that he was meeting with this gentleman right here, and they were trying to make an appointment with him. So if that's the thing that he need to do, I can make him to do that.
Let me tell you what happens when controversial zoning cases come to the area. That area, we just broke ground on a $14 million project coming that way. We received a $35 million grant from Washington, all in the hope of revitalizing the area. Problem businesses, such as the auto storage and whatever else had been going on at that location, is a problem. And members of the association have spoken out against it. Because your brother is not here and you are here, I feel obligated to give you a fair shot, but this will be the last shot. I'm going to continue this case for another 30 days to give you, your brother, your nephew, anybody, time to visit with the formally recognized neighborhood association that represents that area. Are we clear?
Yes, I think he understood that. We understood that. As a matter of fact, we actually know and we already moving forward to move all the stuff. But the confusion was because there was two applications. One was for a house that was we make an application to make like a tax office. Because we actually, when we purchased those property, we know that there was no residential. There was only abandoned empty lots. So, but one of the house that is on the corner, we file an application to make it up as a tax office. I think that is the only case, but somehow they get confused and they get messed up together with the other application for the other 6 or 7 property that we have the other business on it, that we are already moving. I got proof that we already buy a property out of the city because we agree with you guys that is not the type of business for that particular community. But
well, let me state this to you. I am not confused. The neighborhood association is not confused. There is a similar situation in Mosier Valley where all around it you had industry, but one remaining residential lot. No one ever thought anyone would try to build a house, but someone is trying to build. And so the neighborhood association is committed to A5, which is what it is. This is an application to change the zoning, and it is an active application. So you've got 30 days. You can get the phone number now, because as long as the neighborhood association is opposed to your request, I am duty-bound to support them because I'm elected by people who live in that area. And so the president is here. I would suggest you get his phone number, and whoever from your business needs to meet with him, he is to arrange a meeting for you with the members of the neighborhood association. They're very active. And so I don't have a calendar in front of me, but whenever that next date is, Ron.
That's June 28th.
So you got until June 28th, and we'll be back here, and that will be the last. And so please, whoever is going to represent this company, y'all need to get with that man's people.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And with that, I move to continue until June 28th.
Okay.
Thank you, Gina. I've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Uh-oh, okay, we got Crane is a yay. Leonard, can you vote? He's not. Okay, is abstain, or he's not here. So that's everybody. Here he comes. Hi, Leonard, you can vote. Sorry about that. Motion to continue passes.
Zoning docket ZC 22-040.
Our first speaker is Darren Norman.
Hello, I'm Darren Norman of Urban Worth Company, 3108 West 6th Street. Thanks for taking the time to listen to us today. I was before you 2 weeks ago and sought a continuance until today to have additional time to speak with the neighborhood. I think I've got a presentation in today. If you have it, no? Well, I've got a sheet. That's why we print them out in advance. I had a little bit of confusion in the case before, and so I was not associated with the case early on, but became later involved and reached out to the community. You can see a list of dates here for you, and also a list of Linwood neighborhood members who are in support of the case. We spent some time with the neighborhood association, created 3 concept plans, went through them and collected their concerns, and tried to address those, answered all questions that we could about zoning. So I've got more to show here, but I think I'll save you the time today so you can move on with the rest of your agenda. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. I feel like we've reached a good consent with the neighborhood association as well as the neighbors immediately surrounding the project. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'll turn to Councilmember Beck. Go ahead.
First, I want to thank you for making my job easy. There was some consternation in the community, and you were able to come in and navigate between the property owner and the neighborhood. So thank you very much for that. And with that, I move to approve.
Thank you. Got a motion and I'm sorry, we have one comment card. Well, never mind. It's a comment card, not a speaker, so we're good. We can move forward. The motion is second. Please vote. So he's a yay.
I also wanted to thank the members of the Neighborhood Association for their participation.
Thank you, Dorian. And motion passes.
Zoning docket ZC 22-041 and 22-081 were continued to June 14th. MNC 22-0389.
Got a motion, council? Thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0390.
Councilmember Firestone. Thank you. We've got a motion. Second. Please vote. I think I've had too much coffee up here. Motion carries.
MNC 22-0392.
Move to approve.
Elizabeth. Motion carries.
Mayor, that completes our agenda.